gentlemen, my name is Ohigake Muturi. Welcome to Let's Create Africa webinar, where we talk about business innovation, governance, and the SDGs. And hopefully, Ngwing Kimani today, our very honorary, amazing, wonderful, supremely intelligent
Oh boy.
um, lady will be joining us this evening. But before I even get to that, let me just tell you of the people who have come on board and who have helped us make this possible, starting with Startinev, which is an innovation ecosystem enabler. Let's Create Africa, which is an ESO, that's Entrepreneur Support Organization, leveraging on PR, communications, and media, because you need to talk about your value. I also want to thank KYR Africa, who are a citizen and civic education platform, and the future of work, who are here to make sure that opportunities for job creation are happening. For those who don't know me, I've been the host of this for the last quite a number of years, and I really love what I do because I get to meet very amazing people, starting with our guest for today, Ngwing Kimani, founder and CEO of Laeteon Investment. And I hope I said that right, Ngwing.
Yes, Laeteon.
Oh, good. I'm sorry, I don't have the wing that you have, so it's a bit
Oh,
difficult at times to say it as well as you could say it. For those who don't know, she's the founder and CEO at Laeteon Investment Advisory, where she delves in wealth and fund management, entrepreneurship support, sustainability insurance, and real estate, among many other things that are about finance. Doing karibu sana to this show and episode, and thank you for giving us your time. From here, I would
Asante.
rather let you introduce yourself and say more about you. I might have missed many wonderful things.
Okay, thank you, Asante Sana, for having me this afternoon. It's a pleasure to join you to have this very important conversation. It's a conversation about finances, which we often shy away to talk about. Um, who am I? Ngwing Kimani, like you said, I'm the founder and CEO of Laeteon Wealth Management Services. We provide support to entrepreneurs on how to manage their cash flow, how to sustain their businesses. We give them tips and tricks, and how to invest the little cash that they receive so that it can act as a reserve to scale their businesses in the future. We also provide fund management services for investors who are looking to invest in African businesses and are uncertain about the landscape, and they need someone on the ground with the relationships that can do the due diligence that they need, and also do the follow-up support and the reporting, to give them the assurance that their money is going to the right place. Last but not the least, we deal with personal financial planning. And this started because when we were helping businesses, we realized that the entrepreneurs often struggle to invest for themselves, to plan for their personal financial management, and therefore they often end up either concentrating on the business growth and forgetting that on the personal financial side, they also need that support so that they can stop pilferage, or like we say, stop stealing from their businesses. So yeah, that's what we do. Um, Previously, I was the executive director of B Lab East Africa. When I started, it was East Africa, and by the time I left last year, we had made the decision at the board level to expand to B Lab Africa. So the name is going to change. And that's because of the efforts that we were able to put in those 3 years to get coverage around the continent. And that's where my sustainability hat really came on, because at B Lab, we were identifying businesses that were impactful, that were thinking about the environment, the society, and governance, and certifying them. I have about 20 years in the experience of finance, and I'll be happy to share that with you all today. And I'm looking forward to a great conversation and great questions from your audience. I don't want to be the only person talking. today.
Okay, great to hear from you, Ngwing, and your thoughts and the things that mean much to you. I would like to ask, even as we begin, what brought you here? For the many women who are watching, or for the many young people who are watching, what even got you here? Because you've been a leader in so many spaces. So, what got you here?
Define here so that I make sure that I'm giving you the right answer. I don't open up other
That's okay.
doors.
No, no, no. We are open to a Pandora's box. But what brought you here in the sense of what are the steps that led you to where you are right now?
Ah, what are the steps that led me to the work that I do now and the spaces in which I am passionate about is just looking at the challenges that you see in society. I think you and I'm based in Nairobi, Kenya, as are you. I know that there are people joining us from my lovely home country of Cameroon. And other areas I have to say that in other areas in Africa too, and even in the US. So um, I think looking at business landscape, business has always been a passion of mine. I grew up in a household where my mother owned several different kinds of businesses, from your corner store to a beauty shop to cereals. So I have always had an interaction with business, and we also have, should I say, a lineage where we come from. We have the business in our blood, in the family, and just watching the evolution of business and where we are now as far as capitalism. Money is in the hands of a few. I think about 1% of the population have the wealth, right? And the rest of us, we dance to their tune. And sadly, there are two things. I think someone had said there are two things that are certain: death and taxes. Sadly, the wealth goes into a small pool, and then these people can't take it with them when they die. So I often ask myself, so what's the point, right? What's the point in amassing so much wealth? And why is it that you would find in a business, you'll find a CEO taking home 200 million a year, and then you will find another worker in that same organization barely taking home 500,000 shillings. So there's a disconnect there. And so if we as advisors and business professionals continue to promote this kind of capitalistic way of doing business, we will not go far. Because it is very extractive to the environment, extractive to the people, to the human workforce, and even to our economies in general. We all suffer. And so I began to get interested in, okay, are there different ways of doing business? And yes, there are. You can have a business that is more inclusive, that is more sustainable in that it thinks about the environment, the society, and has right governance structures to reduce things like corruption, etc., so that we can all benefit as a society. I'm not saying you give people handouts, but I'm saying that there's a better way to do things. And so that I did a degree in business management. I did a degree also in accounting, just because of that passion that I had in business. And then I kept wondering, okay, why is it that, I don't know if you, Wahika, if you've ever wondered, you've thought about, like now in Kenya, the finance bill, you think about the policies that are being added or things that are being implemented, and you wonder, are we living in different worlds, or are these government people not feeling the same pain that we are feeling? So what exactly goes into developing policy or doing policy change? So I did my master's degree in public policy, so that I can have the theoretical knowledge, and then I can influence that in my leadership.
Brilliant. You talk about sustainability, you talk about financing, you talk about ESG, and all these sound nice and hunky dory, but are they relevant to common people who are just trying to run their business? Because at the end of the day, I just want to see food on my table, for example. So you're using nice buzzwords, but are they relevant?
Very good question. Are they relevant? Now, let me ask you, and I know this is a question just for our audience to think about. Like when you see your electricity bill going up, it doesn't affect you only, it affects everybody. The higher ups and the bottom of the pyramid. All of us feel the pinch. All of us feel the pinch in the taxes. All of us feel the pinch when it rains and it floods and the water carries our homes away. All of us feel the pinch when you go to the hospital and you can't afford healthcare services, but yet you're employed and you're working and somebody's paying you, but they are not paying you enough. So when I talk about sustainability, I think it is relevant for everyone because the effects of climate change are not selective. We will all feel the pinch in our own areas, be it in your house, be it on your farm, if you're a farmer and you're growing produce and there's drought because rains have not come. So it affects everybody. And I think that we in Africa, we have to be more deliberate about sustainability. And when I say sustainability, yes, it's a big word, but I can break it down to I've talked about environmental factors, planting trees. When we are cutting trees, are we replanting? Do we need to cut the trees? Can we use other sustainable material? When you're talking about waste, the things that we are throwing away, are there things that can be recycled? And the good thing is that in the past week in Nairobi, we've been having this conference with the father of microfinance, who is here, Professor Yunus, discussing the three zeros, right? For environment, for zero unemployment, for zero waste. And this is because it touches on everyone. Wherever you are, you can decide that I'm going to use a water bottle, which I can refill, or I can use a plastic bottle, which will go in a minefield. And if I do use a plastic bottle, can I recycle it? And if you look at the low income areas where they use a lot of sachets, little packets of little things, that's a lot of plastic, that's a lot of paper, and that's a lot of waste that is coming through. And yes, it affects them because at the end of the day, we all will have to pay for these sins. They don't go away.
Good. So tell us your experience in leadership, and you can pick a few organizations that you worked with and how it has been just introducing the organizations and the people into concepts of a sustainable financing or even doing business for good.
Okay,
Talk to
so
us.
so I will start with my clients who are various businesses. When we sit down to talk about sustainability, and interestingly, you were asking if it's relevant for everyone. We have women in the area, for example, who distribute LPG gas. You get um, it also affects people like them. And we don't only promote sustainability because of access to finance, right? In Africa, right now, we do have a few green bonds and a few NGOs who give eco loans, eco-related loans to smallholder farmers or women in business. But we don't just promote sustainability such that you can access money. The first thing that I would say in my experience in leadership is the mind shift that is necessary. I think there's a mind shift that we need as consumers, but more so as business owners and entrepreneurs, in that it is actually possible to do business and do business for good. And when I say business for good, that just means that if you're able to sell your product and make 100% profit, so let me use actual numbers. If you're able to make a profit of $100,000 every month or every year, And that is your take home money, which you're going to share with your shareholders. Would it be an uphill task to say, let me make a few changes in my company such that we can comfortably take home half of that? So we make a profit of 50,000, but then what we do is the other 50,000, we happily distribute it to our staff in the form of a salary that is above the required minimum wage, in form of employee benefits like medical benefits, in the form of taking the time to recycle waste, or switching our energy to solar, because these sustainable things that we promote, they come with a capital cost, and we are not, should I say, we are not oblivious that it does come with a capital cost. But if a business owner or a leader is not specifically thinking about running their business sustainably, they will not make these changes, because it will seem like the fruits of their labor will take longer to materialize, and they could make all that profit today and retire tomorrow. But another thing, so that's the resistance or the gap that I have seen in engaging with business, those who are thinking about sustainability and those who are already on the sustainability journey. So at B Lab, we certified our first cohort in 2017, 2018, of which you were part of it at Let's Create Africa. And we were able to do a survey 3 years later when they were coming up for recertification to ask them those pertinent questions. Since you've been on this sustainability journey, what has that done for your business? So we were able to see, and me being in finance, of course, I was looking at, so how does that affect your profit margin? So we were able to see great numbers in, we have more women in leadership, we have more women in the boardroom, we have more benefits to our staff members, but our net profits went down. And so one of the things for me that I noted was that if we have to keep championing the sustainable way of doing business, we are not taking the benefits away from the shareholders. We are making sure that the shareholders benefit as well as everybody else. So we have to find a certain level of balance. So my first experience is that mind shift is what is needed. The second is that the conversation is new on the continent. I think a lot of people have been hearing the word sustainability and thinking about it in terms of environmental sustainability, and taking more time to understand what it means to be sustainable in other areas of their business when it concerns their customers and their consumers as well, and the products that they're sending out. So as Laeteon, one of the things that we do is take the time to educate. We educate the leadership in those businesses. We educate the staff if they invite us to talk to their staff, because it's also important that if you're on a journey towards sustainability, your staff knows that you're on this journey and they understand why you're on this journey. So that's a lot of the major part of the lessons. The other thing is that at the end of the day, like you said, we have to have food on our table. So the desire to have a sustainable business is often overshadowed by, is this going to make me money? And this is where sustainable financing comes in to plug in that gap, where there are specific financing products for businesses that are on the sustainability journey, where you have to prove. So instead of them asking you with a heavy focus on what is the collateral you're bringing to the table, they want to see what is the impact that your business is having. And that is what qualifies you for financing, as well as other requirements depending on who the financier is.
Good. You've actually mentioned a few elements I would like to dig into, starting with what's B Corp, what's B Lab? For those who don't know, could you please tell them what that is? It sounds like a clique or a cult, and we have already troubles with that.
So B Corp is the short form for B corporations. A B corporation is an organization or a company that is a for-profit entity that has gone through an assessment administered by B Lab. So there's a B Lab on every continent in the world. And so they administer a tool which is free at the moment. I think very soon they will be charging for accessing the B impact assessment test. So you take the B impact assessment test that measures 5 areas of your business. It looks at your governance structures, the impact you're having in the community, the impact you're having on your customers, the impact you're having on your workers, and also the impact you're having on the environment. And if you score an 80 and above, you are invited for verification. Now, the verification process is a rigorous process, just to confirm everything that you have said that you are. And then once you've passed verification, you pay a certification fee and you become what we call a certified B corporation. It is a mark that is recognized everywhere in the world. There are businesses who prefer to work with B Corps because of this rigorous verification process that they go through. It gives your company a good stamp of approval. And I would say also B Corp should not be confused with the B team. The B team is a completely separate team. I know that there are some leaders in Kenya that signed on to join the B team. The late Bob Collymore was one. Mr. Oigara from KCB Bank at the time he was at KCB was also one. Why do I keep forgetting this guy for Virgin Atlantic? He's also a
Richard
Richard
Branson.
Branson, yes, and Mr. Strive Masiwa as well. So that's a group of leaders who are driving the same narrative of impactful business not just for profit, but also for the benefits of society. And I think we are on the right track. I think that we are tired of extractive capitalism and we need to find a different way of doing business that is more sustainable. And that's what Laeteon helps businesses do. I can't hear you. I don't know if you're on mute. Now, yes,
Yeah,
I can
can you
hear
hear
you
me?
now.
Oh, good, good. Sorry about that. So, good. Sustainable financing. What is it even? What? Yeah, like what is it? Honestly, and you've talked about net profit, net loss, gross loss. What do those terms mean for people in business? I know it looks like the obvious, but some people don't even know what that means before they approach investment.
Yeah.
So, could you please take us through that? A basic course in financing and accounting.
I should apologize because you see, those of us in finance, since we use these words every day, we assume that that everybody knows. So thank you for probing.
Very much so. But I think it's because you're the holder of money, of capital. That's why you use such terms. So we really wonder how to approach you.
Sustainable finance is the process of taking environmental, social, and governance in account when giving money to a business. So if an investor, whether it's an individual investor or an institutional investor like IFC or World Bank, is giving money to a business, they don't only look at your net profit, which is the amount you take home after all your expenses and taxes have been paid. They don't only look at your assets, which you can bring in as collateral. They also look at the impact you're having in those areas and whether you have solid governance structures. And I'll also just pause here to delve into the governance structures a bit. Because sometimes we can think, okay, governance means I have a business permit and I have a registered business, and that is it. Governance means, besides me, Ngwing, who else is overseeing my business? Do I have a board of directors? Who am I accountable to? Do I have things in place to ensure that within my business there is no corruption, there is no bribery? We know we are in Africa. Let's just say everybody gets a cut most of the time. Does my business have those policies in place that says we will not bribe? Even if we are applying for a tender, we will not bribe. We do not accept bribes as well. We have these consequences for the bribes. We also, in governance, look at legacy planning. So oftentimes you will see when someone is trying to give financing to a business, they want to know that this business is owned and or managed by more than one person. Because the reality is that if one person is the carrier of the business, if God forbid something happens to that one person, that investment could be gone with the death of that one person. So there has to be an aspect of legacy planning, even if it's a family business, even if it's a large corporation. What's the continuity plan? And so this is also in the governance structure. So why is ESG important? Why even sustainable finance? That's because investors have seen that businesses that have an eye on these three areas, they have more longevity. And so it leads to more long-term investments and a sustainable economy for the country and also for the people that are there. So when you talk about the aspects of environmental, it's not just climate change mitigation, it's also biodiversity prevention, preservation. You can think about pollution. So if you're in manufacturing, how are you reducing your emissions? How are you reducing? Like, do you have filters in place? What ways are you using to have a more sustainable environment for your, not only for yourself but for the community? I mean, we've heard of stories of businesses operating in certain places which is causing cancer to the community or which is contaminating the water for the community. So that is looked at. Social, we look at issues of inequality, human rights, inclusivity, human capital, all those things. And for governance, also public and private institutions, not just private alone. Yeah.
Great, thank you for breaking that down. For those who haven't noted that, that is ESG, environmental, social, and corporate governance, also known as environmental social governance, which is a framework actually that was designed to be embedded into an organization strategy. And I like the questions coming in, and thank you everybody. Please, wherever you're tuning in from, throw in your question. Let Ngwing answer herself. Uh,
Let us,
I,
Mahiga.
I nearly said that, then I realized no, that's not my forte. My forte is letting you answer them. But thank you, Caleb, for joining us. I see a number of people who have joined us. Caleb, who was Caleb Rukundo, thank you for joining us, who is from Uganda. I see also Karimi Kinoti from Kenya, who is in climate policy. Thank you so much for joining us. I see Jean, who actually has even thrown in a question. But from just Karimi, who's saying thanks for the pertinent conversation. She believes it's really meaningful and just on time. Caleb says, this Caleb Rukundo, techpreneur, looking for partners for an agri-tech project, which you are in Ngwing, actually. You're in agriculture, but I won't go into that fast. Let me start with Jean. I hope I
Jean
said it
Claude.
right. Jean
Jean
Claude,
Claude.
but not
Yes.
Van Dame, who
But
says
not
with the upcoming tax proposals by the Parliament, Kenyan Parliament to be precise, what are the foreseen or unforeseen impacts that businesses are likely to face? That's question number one. Then also, could this also affect sustainability programs, and what is the way out? So those are three questions from him. or her. Yeah.
So let me start. Let me answer Jean-Claude's question. Firstly, that tax proposal is going to affect everyone. I would say the context for those who might not be in Kenya and might not understand the background of Jean-Claude's question. Kenya is in a tight spot, as is many African countries, who has done a lot of borrowing. I think we are currently at 11 trillion in debt, and we have to make sure that we do not default. And so the government is looking for ways to raise income so that they can meet the debt obligations. Now, us finance people, the first thing that we always say is reduce your expenses. That's where you start from. You don't increase your revenue before you manage your expenses. But it seems like for this government, we are trying to do the reverse. Um, but but so the tax rate is going up for pay as you
Just
earn.
just a
This
reminder that you're a citizen of Kenya, and we appreciate
yeah.
you very much.
So pay as you earn, which is your employment tax, keeping in mind that the majority of Kenyans are either self-employed or are in informal employment. So this tax bracket is not as wide as it should be, right? So I wonder what that 5% increase will really do for the bottom line we are trying to increase. And the other taxes, that have been put in place for those like Wahiga that are working digitally and making revenue, that they have to be taxed on. And so I think that things are going to get much tighter before they get better. Obviously, the government is trying to put measures in place that will cushion us and help us leap forward into a better position. So it's going to be painful in the beginning, and hopefully the fruits will be seen in the future. But what are the possible impacts? So me as an employer, number one, you're asking me to pay more pay as you earn. What does that mean for my employees? Most of them, their salaries are automatically going to reduce. So what's the pressure on me? The pressure on me is to increase the salary to be able to keep them at par, because I mean, who wants to be working and as time goes by, your salary is reducing? That doesn't make any sense. So there's that pressure that's going to be there. And of course, if my organization is not able to afford to do that, I will start letting employees go, and then we will have more unemployment. Our unemployment rate will go up, and I feel like the government will lose out, because that 5% that it has increased, that has caused my employee to now be unemployed, they are going to lose out on the 30% that I was paying. So again, this is why I said I tried to do public policy, just to see how these things happen and whether we think through the entire wheel. So there's that. There's also those that are even in, let's say you're retail, you're in retail, right? Tax for your inventory is going up, your prices will go up. How many people will start affording? So we now, as citizens, will have to start thinking creatively, what can we cut back? What are the things, how can we manage our cash flow? What are the investments that we have to postpone? But what are the partnerships that we now have to do? So the things that we used to do alone, how can I work with my neighbor to do together, right? Because now we have less money, but we still have the same needs. Some needs we can cut back. Maybe now those who have shambas or farms lying idle will start thinking about, how do I start growing food? So it will force us to be more innovative. But for sustainability, I think that we are kind of going to move back, because already businesses, social enterprises are not making a lot of profit. And then we are trying to push the agenda of paying above minimum wage, paying a living wage rather than a minimum wage that is not sustainable and that no one can live off of because it is too small. And then we have policies like this that make things more expensive and cause the businesses to cut back. So that's a disadvantage that I can see, how it would affect. But maybe one advantage that can come out of this is that now there could be more promotion of sustainable financial products to support businesses not to abandon the journey. So that is a positive possibility. I know that Africa is a continent of innovation, and there are so many ways in which we come up with doing things differently that solve our problems. So I think that a lot of solutions will also come out of this, because we are an innovative lot.
Good. You've spoken about Africa, so let me get into that macro space. What do you think, and also in your experience, what are some of the biggest challenges facing sustainable financing in Africa, apart from the proposed finance bill?
I think the biggest challenge, and I alluded to it earlier, is the mindset. Okay, so there is that mindset. There's also number two, the
Is this,
knowledge. So
just to clarify, is this mindset for entrepreneur or the governance space? Who,
both,
or
both. I would say
okay,
mindset for everyone. The people making the policies, the people designing the products, even the people at the banks that are giving financing products, how many are actually doing sustainable financing? I think in Africa, we've only had about 5 green bonds floated: South Africa, Kenya, Morocco, Nigeria. Yeah, I actually think 4. We don't even have that many. And then the ones that we have, the bureaucracy to get access to the green bond is another elephant in itself. It's almost like we've said, yes, we want to go on this journey of sustainability. We have been supported with green bonds, green bond financing. We also have DFIs, development and financial entities that come and say, here is money to give only to people doing green projects or sustainable projects. And then what do? The banks take the money and sit on it. They don't tell anybody that there is this product. And if you by chance hear that there is this product and you go apply, you start figuring out that, okay, do they really want me to access this thing because I've given them everything and I'm still not eligible? So I don't understand. So there's bureaucracy that is also a challenge. There is the improper dissemination of information that is also a challenge. And then there's also the implementation that is a challenge. I can understand how this is new, and the financiers might be thinking about, okay, so how do we monitor this? And this is what Laeteon supports with the monitoring of the finances. So helping identify the people who are eligible for this financing and helping do the reporting for the investors, right? So the bureaucracy is definitely a challenge. And then also on the side of the business people, you see, when we started talking about sustainability a number of years ago, the conversation has evolved a lot until we've gotten to this point where there is now sustainable financing, and businesses were not ready. And so if there's a message that I can pass today, is start changing, like start adapting now, because your business might be small today. In a few years, it's not going to be small, and you will need that capital injection to take you to scale. Don't try to get to that point where you need money before you start putting in sustainable solutions. Because in your application, you're going to have to show that you have had those sustainable solutions 3 or 4 years ago. And here is the report showing the impact that you have had. So, impact is definitely a challenge, showing that we have actually, as a business, had impact. Therefore, give me more money to do more.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Because actually, my question is, even with those gaps, where does Laeteon come in? What is Laeteon doing to fill those gaps? And does it fill all of them, or the only thing you do is the monitoring and the making sure there is a direct fit for investor and investee? Where does Laeteon come in?
So we don't actually do the monitoring. What we do is we locate investors. So if a business comes to us, we are able to look at your documents and see whether you qualify for fundraising. So we assist with fundraising. And then from our network of investors, we are able to match you to the right investor for your business. And then after that, we are able to do the due diligence for the investor in terms of course, when an investor is giving you money, let's say you have raised $100,000, there might be terms that say, we will give you 50,000 now. When you reach these milestones, we'll give you another 50. So we are able to support with providing the evidence for those milestones independently. Okay, so in terms of monitoring and evaluation or impact measurement and impact reporting, there are other players in the ecosystem that do that. I think Genesis Analytics also does that. They are part of the Andy network. I think I don't know if I know that B leaders because B Lab trained B leaders to be able to do the same. So I think B leaders are able to do that. I can think of Think Opal, which is a
Sorry,
company that
sorry. Who are Andy? Who are Andy?
I knew you would ask me as soon as I said Aspen
It's actually it's taken a
Development
bit too long.
Aspen Development Network. It's a network that brings together players in the ecosystem who support ecosystem, meaning the business space in East Africa for small and growing businesses. So any organization or institution or company that supports businesses or invests in businesses in East Africa can belong to the East Africa chapter. But Andy is an organization that is global. So you can find a chapter near you. And Wahiga will put their website. I'm sure he'll put a link somewhere.
Okay. What do you think are the most effective ways to promote sustainable financing within the continent? Actually, let's start with Kenya and then the continent.
Okay, we will start. Let me start with the support that Laeteon provides businesses outside. If you are thinking about outside of sustainable financing, so you are a business, you are running, you're generating revenue, but it seems like you're not moving, you're standing still. Like all the money you make goes back into the business, and you're struggling. Okay, so that's the first point of intervention of, okay, can we take a look at your business? Let's look at your operations, let's look at what you're doing and see what are the things we can move around and help you with so that we can improve your cash flows, right? So that we see how the money that is coming in is a lot more than the money that's going out. That's one. Then, secondly, if you as a business are looking to access sustainable financing products, okay, let's look at those three areas. What is the impact your business is having on the environment? What is the societal impact, the social impact that your business is having for yourself, for within internally, your employees, the community around you, and your customers who are consuming your products, right? And what kind of products are you churning out, and what's your process of doing so? And then let's look at your governance structures, because there is no investor or financial institution that wants to put money into a black hole. So, yes, your business might not have a bank account, but your business has to be registered. Okay, so you have to have a registered business which is independent of you as an individual, so that you're dealing with the business entity. And then what are the checks and balances that you have in place to ensure that the money that I'm giving you, if it is not a grant, and even if it is a grant, so let's say I'm giving you money that is a grant, and you have told me you're going to use it to increase your inventory, what are the things you have in place to track your inventory? What comes in and what goes out? Do you have accounting systems? These days, there are accounting systems that you can put on your mobile app or your mobile phone. And I will tell you, there's a myth that people in the rural area or people who are not in the cities don't have smartphones. We just finished conducting some research in Western Kenya, in 5 counties: Kakamega, Kisumu, Bungoma, Siaya, and Vihiga. And one of the questions we asked them, because we are trying to see how digital financing has penetrated in that area to agribusinesses. And 85% of the people surveyed had a smartphone. So there's no excuse for not keeping records for your business. So those governance structures have to be in place for you to be able to access sustainable finance. And so these are the things that, so for us, Laeteon, we can help you look through, we give you advice on things to do with financial management, to do with putting you together with the right funder for your business, and funding support and fund management support for the investors if necessary. But the implementation of certain aspects, for example, if you need help with your bookkeeping, we definitely have partners who we can recommend who can help you do your bookkeeping. We have partners we can recommend who can help you do monitoring and evaluation, generating those impact reports. All those things we can recommend, but you're free to engage them to do that for you.
Now, great. As a normal SME, how much would it cost me?
What is a normal SME? You know, SMEs have revenue between 1 million and 50 million. So our fees are
Is that per annum or per month? Is that per annum or per month?
per annum. So I'm saying
Yes,
that's their annual revenue. So a normal
that's okay.
SME is within that. So we normally charge a percentage of your previous year's revenues. For
Okay.
fundraising, we charge a percentage of funds raised. That is a success fee.
Uh-huh.
Um,
So
Now,
wait,
when you
just to
sign
get it
up,
right. Wait,
yes,
Ngwing, wait, so that I get it right for my people. So you're
yes,
telling
you
me I
do.
can I can come to you and tell you I would like to raise finance, and you wouldn't charge me first
Yes.
until
Uh,
we
so
get
so
the
so
financing.
so let us break that down, right?
Okay,
So
good. Thank you.
we do have clients with whom we have that arrangement, right?
Yes,
That
yes.
they say, you help locate an investor, help us through this process, and when we are successful, we will pay you a percentage,
Mhm.
and we are able to do that. Now, the caveat with that is that the companies that are successful in this engagement, because we have a few, are people who already have robust systems where, when I say, give me your income statement, they generate it and send. Give me your financial projections, they send it to me. So the groundwork I have to do is the presentation and looking for the right fit and making sure the meetings happen, making sure I moderate the meeting. All those things is what I help with. Now, if you are an organization who has nothing, you have not kept your books, you don't have a pitch deck, you don't have any profile of your company, and all those are materials that we have to develop, we can do a twofold arrangement. One, you sign an exclusive agreement that Laeteon is the one helping you fundraise. Why exclusive? Because we don't want to develop materials that you take to go fundraise somewhere else. Then we would have worked for free. So we sign an exclusive engagement. We do the materials. It is our proprietary information. If you decide that you want to go fundraise elsewhere, now you pay us for our consulting fee and we give you all the materials that you developed because we spent time to do that. In terms of business support services, we do that. We are able to charge you on a case by case basis because if you're a business that has just started, you don't have a mess, you just want to make sure that you're starting well. Then we'll charge you a different rate than another SME that is already operating and they have 20 million Kenya shillings in revenue and they haven't been paying their taxes and they have all these issues and they need us to come and sort. That one, we charge you differently. So we charge on an engagement basis. I hope that's
Good to
clear.
hear that. Oh yes, yes, very, very clear, guys. Please,
Let me add, because I don't want
yeah,
No, I was
please
saying
add.
I don't want to leave out the personal financial uh, portion. So if you are an individual and you need help structuring your finances, we do give you a 1 hour consultation for free. You can come, you can have a conversation, we can help you, give you some tips. Anything that we ask you to implement, we help you through that process. We don't charge you. Any subsequent meetings, we have an hourly fee of 5,000 Kenya shillings. That translates to about $50 per hour.
Good, good. So getting back to the question, what do you think are the most effective ways to promote sustainable financing in the continent?
Go where the businesses are. So, for example, do you know where the green bond sits in Kenya?
I would say roughly for me, but you can
No, I'm
really educate. Yeah, you can really educate our audience.
Okay, because KCB has financing for sustainable businesses. I think Standard Chartered Bank also has has that. Now, the businesses who don't go to banks because there's already a perception. Like when you call the name Standard Chartered Bank, people are like, hey, I think you need to have a certain amount of money, you need to have a bank account with them, you need to have this, you need to have that. It's very difficult for the connection to happen between the people who need the money, the social enterprises who are already doing the good work to access. So I think that we need to take the information to where the people are. So on social media, within networks, within business networks, I think that the investors can do more work to tell us that they are out there and they are approachable.
Brilliant. Now, getting to the thick of things, which is policy and advocacy matters and governance. How can African governments and businesses work together to ensure that sustainable financing is a top priority?
So I'll say for Kenya, for one, our president is moving in the right direction. Climate is his top agenda, but I think he's thinking about it more in an environment, with an environment angle. I think at the government and policy level, there's policy, first of all, that needs to be in place to accommodate social enterprises. Um, Social enterprises are currently, I think, uh, working under the umbrella of companies limited by guarantee. Um, I think tax breaks need to be given, their efforts need to be recognized, and all those changes have to come about in policy. So yes, we have in Kenya the startup bill that is going through, but this did not really have social enterprises in mind. And going outside of Kenya, I think the same can be replicated, where the government can actually drive the agenda of sustainable financing through the promotion of sustainable businesses. If the government begins to give incentives to businesses to be sustainable, be impactful, people will take notice. They'll take notice and they'll start thinking that, I mean, number one, we should have an option to register a social enterprise. Why does it have to either be a limited company or a company limited by guarantee? We can have that option. So all of those things are enabled at the government level. And then I think tax incentives would be helpful. I think public education would be helpful because really businesses like this and social enterprises, they help government fulfill their social obligations, solve problems in the communities in which those problems are a big headache, and that government, for whatever reason, is unable to deliver.
Brilliant, brilliant. Talking about Africa and the organizations, how do you see organizations, especially financing organizations and funding organizations in Kenya, should help? How can they help businesses? How can they work with the SMEs and the likes to actually provide sustainable financing?
So I think that firstly, and this is my personal opinion and opinion from my experience, is that a lot of the investors that are coming in from the Western side. And so when they come in to Africa, they begin to ask us for requirements like we are in the Western world, right? So somebody will come and say, yes, you need to have a bank account, you need to have a board of directors that is functioning, you need to have all these things, you need to have collateral. And for women in business, especially the older generation, where they didn't have titles, the titles were in the names of their husbands, or the businesses were registered, even though it was their business, it was registered in the name of their husband or male family member. Those things become difficult, those requirements become difficult for us to fulfill because they were not developed in our context. So I feel like innovation needs to be a part of the requirements that they are asking. So how can we achieve the same due diligence purpose by asking them for something else? And there are some financing companies or organizations that are doing so, are able to do so by using agents on the ground, especially like digital lenders. I had a conversation with Apollo Finance a couple of weeks ago. They operate throughout the country in Kenya, but mostly in Western, and they give financing to farmers. And the agents are farmers themselves. So you, farmer, you can receive financing from Apollo, but at some point you can sign up to be an agent for them and then find customers for them. So you're more likely to get customers in your community who you know have a farm and have a productive farm and will be able to pay back the loan. So you see, they do the due diligence for them. And Apollo guys don't have to leave Nairobi to go to Western to go look for these clients. So innovative requirements have to come in to be able to meet the African market where their needs are.
My oh my, ladies and gentlemen, it's a few minutes to wrapping this up. Woo, time goes fast when you're having a good time, I believe. It seems many people enjoy seeing you and hearing you, Ngwing. So great to have you here. I think I have a question from Lewis. Lewis asks, working in finance, how are you able to distinguish an actual sustainable business from one that embraces on the pitch? It does, but on the actual operations, it does not. I think we've had many cases like that also.
Louis, numbers do not lie. The devil is in the numbers. You can present to me a pitch and say that your product has reached this number of people, it's having this number of impact, and you're a sustainable business. And let's just start even from salaries. So this is what I'm going to do. I am going to look at your expenses. And I'm going to say, how many staff members did you say you have? You have 50. Okay, what is your monthly payroll? Okay, I just divide your monthly payroll by those number of people and I can see the average salary and I can tell you that you're paying people below minimum wage. That's a red flag. So the devil is in the details. And be sure that the investors do check. They see your financial projections. They want to know how many employees. They want to know how long you've been in business, how many customers you have, what are the products you're selling. If you're in manufacturing, how are you manufacturing it? How are you disposing of waste? You cannot lie. So the only way that someone will not be able to distinguish is if they have not done the due diligence. And the due diligence process for financing is rigorous.
Thank you. Ngwing Kimani, founder and CEO, Laeteon Investment Advisory. Others know her as a wealth manager. What would be your final comments as we close this down?
Africa is the place to be. The innovations are here. We have the resources. We have a very youthful generation with a lot of ideas. I think that we can own our problems and develop the solutions for it. If we are in business, please think about doing your business sustainably. If you are an employee in a business, we call you an intrapreneur. You can put pressure on your management to do better for Africa. Because if we don't do it, no one will come here and do it for us. Let me tell you, people don't come here only to come and help. They come here to extract, and we all know that. So, how do we position ourselves to make sure that we find solutions that work for us for the long term and for the next generations?
Yeah, brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Ngwing Kimani, the one and only, if I must say. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I would just like to say thank you to our sponsors, Restream. Restream is a platform provider for this feature, as you can see from our channel. And we would like to know from all of you how you think about the channel and how the platform feels like for you. Also, Startinev, you could Google them, Startinev, which is an innovations enabler organization. We also have KYR Africa, which is a civic and citizen platform that has also been part of this movement and the future of work, who are doing their best to explore opportunities for job creation. And also, Let's Create Africa, an entrepreneur support organization leveraging PR, communications, and media to help you speak your value and speak what you are. This is Let's Create Africa webinar, where we talk about business innovation, governance, and the SDGs, which reminds me, Ngwing, please tell us about sustainable financing within SDGs. Is it also relevant? And what are your thoughts about the SDGs for Africa?
That is a very good question. Maybe you can break down the SDGs. So the Sustainable Development Goals, I think, are not only relevant for Africa. I think they are relevant for the entire world. The question is, are we going to realize them by 2030? That's the question. But I would say, yes, indeed, of course, they are relevant for Africa and relevant for sustainable financing because they are either they are touching on the environmental side or the social side or the governance side. And any business can easily and should adopt at least one SDG because it's possible. It encapsulates um, all businesses. For example, if you are a business, you are definitely already working on SDG 8. You're providing decent work and economic growth. So that's an SDG that you can adopt and you can focus on to grow your business. You can think about partnering. We were talking about partnerships earlier in the context of partnering to survive the tight economy. But as businesses, we should partner anyway, because that's how we get collective voice to drive the change that we need, especially in policy, and that's an SDG. So I would say that any business that has adopted an SDG or two or three or five is a candidate for making the case of I am a sustainable business and therefore I qualify for sustainable finance.
Ah, great. I think also to add on to that, seeing that you've taught me well, or so I hope, there's there's definitely significant interest using sustainable financing mechanisms to support the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals in Africa, which are the SDGs. Um, if for those who know, the cost of achieving the SDGs in sub-Saharan Africa has been estimated to roughly 574 billion per year until the year 2030, which is pretty huge because that's in dollars. That's 574 USD billion per year. So, and that's for the continent. And innovative financing mechanisms are needed to mobilize these resources. So, I think out of experience and also out of being in the ecosystem for the last 10 years, the innovation ecosystem for the last 10 years, various approaches have been explored to finance the SDGs in Africa, including what we call innovative financing mechanisms, such as green bonds. I think you already talked about green bonds, social impact bonds, and debt for climate swaps, which which is a bit of a conversation, has a lot of debacle here and there, but is an option. And was one of the conversation that happened in Shama, COP27. I've forgotten the place. um, so
And shake.
Sham, looking for that word, Sharm Sheikh. So multilateral development banks, MDBs, and the IMF, which is the International Monetary Fund, are also working to increase their contributions to sustainable financing in Africa. It definitely has come with its own challenges to implementation being a big one. And maybe that's also a space that social entrepreneurs need to innovate on, including limited financial and technical capacity, weak regulatory frameworks, which is also what we've spoken about when it comes to government, and a lack of access to international markets. And I wonder, is Laeteon also trying to niche itself to fill such gaps at any point?
Please summarize your question again for me because you
No, no.
said it's a long.
When you think of, oh, sorry, when you think about the challenges of implementing sustainable financing endeavors and projects, is Laeteon at a position to advise, co-work, or assist organizations, or even let the conversation within that space work for the better?
Definitely. We are trying to fill the gap between the information and the businesses, right? And that's why we come in as the connector. And it's interesting that your question has come at this time because Jean Claude also made a comment that investors need to do more to get the word out there because he's shocked that the banks don't even let customers know. Now the thing is that the bigger institutions like the IFC, the World Bank, and those big players, when they come into a country to distribute money on sustainable finance, for example, they go through our local banks for the most part. Even donors, they go through our local bank because the banks are expected to have the right processes in place to distribute to the right people. Oftentimes, we as fundraising support advisors have been frustrated because your client has everything. You have all the paperwork, you have the collateral, you have everything, and you apply, and yet you don't get the loan, and there is no explanation of why not. And I've had one case where we actually bypassed the bank and went directly to the funder
And I'm
to
sure you
say,
got
by
the
the way,
funding.
to the NGO, and we've said, by the way, you guys have this partnership with this bank, and these are the requirements. Look at our documents. We check all the boxes, but we don't get a response. So what needs to happen? And then they have been able to intervene and say, now go talk to this specific person. But why does it have to be that way?
Hmm.
We are the ones who put in these hurdles for businesses to try to jump to get to money that has been freely given for distribution. So why is it not being distributed? So that's really a frustrating point, um, that we try to help the businesses navigate. And before I forget, I also wanted to say, to your question about the SDGs, B Lab has a tool called the SDG Action Manager that businesses can use for free. At least the last time I checked in 2022. Don't quote me on this. I haven't looked in a while, but it's a free tool. So any business can, if you're even thinking, what are these SDGs, what applies to me, etc., you can try that,
Hmm. Hmm.
and it will help you start to think about where your head should be. And also, because you mentioned co-working, I was reminded that at Laeteon we just moved to a cool space off Lenana Road for those of you who are in Nairobi. We have space if you want a desk or if you want a private office that can seat 4 people. Um, it will only cost you 65,000, excluding VAT, for that whole office. You can take it, and it comes with a wonderful boardroom. It has free parking, everything is included, tea, coffee, water. So let us know. Can you imagine if you're a business and you're sitting in an office with us? You get that knowledge. You
Free
get, you
financing,
get
if that's what we can say.
around the water cooler, you get free information.
I see there's a question I might have missed, so let me just get into that. As we finish this, we need to really finish this. Um, Jean Claude says investors should do more to put the information out there because I'm shocked that some of the banks don't even let customers know of the available resources at their disposal. He also adds the G bonds, green bonds, I believe, are the instruments to watch out for. I would have liked to know why, but I'll assume he'll answer that via the platform as we close. And he says, thank you, Karimi, for the question on Laeteon. It should be also be advertised more as it offers the foundation and structural infrastructure that is needed for the success of the organizations. You hear that,
I,
Green? People are asking to hear you more.
that means I need you.
Well, we've begun. So the work has definitely begun. But thank you for that, Karimi. Thank you for that, Jean. Thank you for that, Caleb. Thank you for that, Levis. Thank you, guys, for joining us this evening. We bring this to an end. It officially comes to an end. Actually, we do it just 1 hour extremely so that we keep it short and sweet. So thank you so much. My name is Ohiga K. Muchuri, and this is a Let's Innovation. We, where we focus on business innovation, governance. God bless.